Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow this gathering to be a blessed gathering, a gathering that is full of light and healing and increase. It is from the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us that, alhamdulillah, many of us have just completed Salatul Maghrib. And so we say, Allahumma ma amsa bi min ni'matin aw bi ahadin min khalqik faminka wahdaka la sharika lak falaka alhamdu wa laka ash-shukr ya rabbi laka alhamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhika wa 'azimi sultanik. Ya Allah, you have allowed this night to come upon us with so many blessings, and we know with certainty that these blessings only come from you, and we praise you and we thank you as is due to you and as is befitting to you. For certainly, Ya Allah, we cannot praise you and we cannot glorify you in any way, shape, or form that is sufficient. You are as you have praised yourself. Ya Allah, Ya Kareem, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Ya Allah, we ask you to allow this to always be a blessed gathering for us as we gather every Monday and every Thursday. We gather, Ya Allah, for the purpose of increase, for the purpose of guidance, for the purpose of openings, futuhat. We ask, Ya Allah, that you grant us all of the blessings and the openings and the profundity of meanings that are in store for your servants who are in a state of loving surrender. Ya Allah, we gather in a state of loving surrender, in a state of humility, seeking that you enlighten us, that you open up our chests, and you open up our hearts and minds to that which is beloved to you. Ya Allah, we ask you to make beloved to our hearts everything that is beloved to you. We ask you to make beloved to our hearts Al-Habib al-Mustafa Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask you to make beloved to our hearts the Quran and the Sunnah and this beautiful religion of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. It's always a blessing to be with you. And so inshallah, today we're going to be reflecting on the 8th wisdom of Ibn Ata'illah and his wisdoms that he put together so graciously and so beautifully, so insightful wisdoms that will truly help us become much better Muslims, much better worshippers, much better individuals who try to surrender. It's not easy. This pathway and this journey so often is very challenging and very difficult, but Allah gifts us with guides. He gifts us with teachers. He gifts us with those who He has given them insights, profound insights that we have not received. So we go to our teachers and we humble ourselves and we learn from them. And Sidi ibn Ata'illah al-Iskandari is certainly one of those profound scholars of our past who have enriched generations after generations of scholars and Muslimin. And so we find a deep sense of honor that we're able to read these wisdoms and reflect upon them. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow our time that we spend reading these hikam, reading these wisdoms, to be a source of increase and benefit to Ibn Ata'illah in the afterlife. So we ask Allah to bring him bountiful reward for these wisdoms and to grant him the highest of stations. Allahumma ameen. The 8th wisdom is إذا فتح لك وجهة من التعرف فلا تبالي معها إن قل عملك فإنه ما فتحها لك إلا وهو يريد أن يتعرف إليك ألم تعلم أن التعرف هو مورده عليك والأعمال أنت مهديها إليه وأينما تهديه إليه مما هو مورده عليك. So Ibn Ata'illah, in this profound wisdom, may Allah bless him, is saying, if He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, opens a door for you, there is a wijha, there is a window, a door that is opened, thereby making Himself known to you. Pay no attention if your deeds do not measure up to this. pay no attention to your deeds that have preceded, that do not measure up to this opening, to this fath that has occurred in your life. For in truth, He has not opened it for you, but out of a desire to make Himself known to you. He has not opened it for you, but out of a desire to make Himself known to you. Do you not know that He is the one who presented the knowledge of Himself to you, whereas you are the one who presented Him with your deeds? I know that's a little unclear, but we'll inshallah clarify it. So he's asking a question, he's a rhetorical question almost. Are you not aware of the fact that Allah gave you His knowledge? He opened up a pathway to knowing Him, knowledge of Himself, whereas your actions were simply things that you were presenting to Him? What a difference between what He brings to you and what you present to Him. MashaAllah, this is, brothers and sisters, this is a wisdom that it's, if we can give it a theme to really describe what it's trying to accomplish, what is this wisdom trying to illustrate? It's trying to do two things. Number one, he's in this wisdom telling us, hold off, you may not really understand who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala operates. So this wisdom is giving us deep insight into how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually deals with us, rather than the perhaps at times faulty presumptions that we have over how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with us. And I'll expound upon all of this inshallah. And the second point that he's making is he's saying, hold off and don't write yourself off. Just take a step back. Don't write yourself off. And these two ma'ani, I want you to keep them in your mind, because the hope after we're done with today is that we've really shifted and changed a core conception that we have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A core conception of Allah that for many of us has been a faulty conception and has deprived us so often from opportunities to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we've written ourselves off, or because we have a deficiency in our understanding of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually deals with us. So I wanted to read with you a little bit from the sharh of, I'll put it up to the screen, so those of you who would like to see it, it's the sharh of Sidi Ahmed Zarruq. It's called the Sharh al-Hadi Ashar, the 11th explanation of the Hikam. And it's a beautiful, it's a bit complex, but it's very beautiful and concise. And I think he unlocks profound meanings. So rather than just bumbling on myself, perhaps it is more appropriate that we share some of what Sidi Ahmed Zarruq has noted about these hikam, and then inshallah I'll reflect upon that. So Sidi Ahmed Zarruq says, وجهة التعرف, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up to you a window or door to know Him. ما يواجه الله تعالى به عبده مما يوجب له معرفة بضعف نفسه وعجزها وفقرها وذلها. So what is Allah showing you? When Allah subhanahu, when He's referring to now in the beginning of the hikmah, إذا فتح لك وجهة, إذا فتح لك وجهة من التعرف, He's opened up for you a door to know, to have knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is He showing us? What are the types of openings or doors that He opens for us? One, it is a wijha, to know how weak I am, بضعف نفسي وعجزها, and how deficient I am, and my impoverished state, and how small I am. So the first wijha that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may open for me to get to know, ta'arruf, is to know something about myself, about my reality, about who I am, how weak and in need I am, impoverished. Number two, يعرفه أن الخلق لا يملكون نفعا ولا ضرا. That he will tell you and show us that the creation, they possess no benefit or harm for us. So all of the khalq around us, all of this creation, the humans, the jinn, the trees, the mountains, the environment, the biological realm, the physiological realm, everything, they in of themselves do not possess anything that can beget harm to us or benefit. ولو أن الأمة اجتمعت على أن ينفعوك بشيء لم ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله لك. Allah says that in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that if the entire nations were to come together to benefit you, they would not benefit you with anything except that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed you, and conversely, they will not harm you except with that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for you. So number one is to know something about me. Number two, it is to know something about this creation. Number three, ويعرف به ويعرف به أن مولاه قهار غني قادر عزيز قوي. That from this fath, this opening, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us sometimes a vortex to come to know something about Allah, that He is qahar, that He is powerful, that He has might, that He has dominion, He is dominant, He is ghani, He is need-free, He is qadir, He is very capable, He is aziz. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is dignified and above and majestic, and He's qawi, He's strong. So إذا فتح لك وجهة من التعرف, if he opens up, Sidi Ahmed Zaruq is explained to us just these first few words. What is a wijha? What is fathun laka wijha min al-ta'arruf? It is something that I may come to know of myself, others, or of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he says, فَوَجَبَ, it is then obligatory upon us, أَنْ لَا يُبَالِي بِمَا فَاتَهُ لِأَجْلِ مَا جَاءَهُ مِنْ عِنْدِهِ. It is then obligatory that I do not concern myself and limit myself with that which was from me in the past, and to allow that past to distract me from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought me from Him. So I have my history, I have my past, I have my actions or lack of actions, I have my sinfulness, and so I carry them with me. And in this moment, Allah gives me an opening. There's a vortex, there's a window that's been opened to know Him. And what do? I concern myself with my previous actions. So he says, don't concern yourself with that past, and focus on what Allah has brought you, the great benefit that has brought you, مَا عَظِيمِ فَائِدَتِهِ وَجَلَالَةِ قَصْدِهِ, and how magnificent His purpose is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He's brought us something from Him. Allah has brought us something from Him that is of great benefit and that is profound in its purpose. And so what does this mean to us, brothers and sisters, practically speaking? What he's ultimately illustrating is this. There are times in our lives where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us an opening. He'll give us something to remind us of Him. Perhaps we'll see a saintly person, a pious person worshiping and praying and crying, someone talking about the illustrious deeds that they may do of prayer and the fast. There's some opening, a moment where the khatib or a friend or a loved one mentioned something that reminded me of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I heard a story. I saw a moment of someone of great grandioseness and power and might. And as I watched as someone or something around me humbled by the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some form of a fath. Rather than allowing myself to enter into that door that Allah has opened up for me, what I do is I say, well, I'm not worthy. I have all of these sins in my past. I haven't been a good Muslim. I haven't been practicing. I've been very deficient. And so therefore, I'm not someone who can walk into this door. Now Allah opened up a door for me. And Allah reminded me. Allah showed me something. He showed me something jamalan or jalalan, in manifesting himself beautifully or majestically, but he showed me something. And he's showing me something that can take me towards him. Rather than accepting that, rather than walking into that door, I pause and I say, oh yeah, this door is nice and it's really a wonderful door. And I wish that perhaps I could have been someone to walk through this door, but I'm really not worthy. I'm unbecoming. It's not for someone like me to walk through that door. And that, brothers and sisters, is one of the greatest hindrances that we place on ourselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason why this is so blameworthy is that what I'm effectively saying to Allah is, Ya Allah, it's not about what you want from me, it's rather how I perceive myself and how I perceive whether I am worthy or not what you think. Do you get that? So Allah softens my heart in a moment to appreciate and to value the beauty of this religion, to value prayer, to value fasting, to value charity, to value modesty, to value something beautiful about this religion. And Allah opens himself up to us. And rather than embracing that, I stay away, because I then write myself off as being unworthy. And I know so many of us that this has been the greatest impediment to us having iqbal ala Allah, to us getting closer to Allah, because we have decided that we are unworthy. And that is deeply problematic. See, it's one thing, some of you may ask yourself, well, is it not good to be someone who is regretful and feels that, yes, they've committed many sins and faults, and so like I'm trying to say to Allah, Ya Allah, I am not worthy? Oh, there is definitely a maqam, a station where that's praiseworthy. So if I'm in a maqam and I'm in a station of dhul and inkisar and tawadu' and khudu', and I'm saying, Ya Allah, I am not worthy. You are the most great, and I am the most, and I am in a state of inkisar and khudu'. I've humbled myself to Allah, and I'm uttering those words. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful station to embody. But it becomes blameworthy when I reject an offering from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because I've decided that I am not worthy to be pious. I am not capable of having those bountiful things that you've given others. I'm not. That is despair. That is a rejection of the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is something that Allah is deeply, deeply not appreciative of. Allah actually dislikes that profoundly. So what Imam Ibn Ata'illah is teaching us in the beginning of this wisdom is, don't ever allow your previous actions to define the potential of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You act, but Allah also acts. See, what Imam Ibn Ata'illah is also teaching us is that we have to get out of this transactional mindset that we have when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of us, we think of our relationship with Allah in a very transactional fashion, meaning that the basic equation is this: I do and Allah gives. So if I don't do, Allah doesn't give, right? And that's all it is. So Allah's giving is predicated upon my action. Does Allah ask us to act? Absolutely. But are my actions al-aslul hakim, the governing principle, over Allah's giving? Absolutely not. Allah is al-shakur. He gives abundantly. Allah is al-kareem. He is profoundly generous. Allah is ar-Rahman, ar-Rahim. Allah gives in manners that is far beyond what we are worth or allowed or do, because Allah is profoundly generous. So Allah's giving conditioned or controlled or mitigated by my actions. Do you see how when I describe it like that, it's illustrating a form of ghurur, delusion, and arrogance? So brothers and sisters, the next time I feel that my heart is open to khair, my heart is open to goodness. You know, I haven't been praying sunnah, but I heard the khatira and my heart is really open to the potential of praying sunnah or dressing better. You know, I haven't dressed properly for many years, so now I feel, you know, I feel like maybe I want to dress better. Or I haven't been very charitable, I haven't been very giving, so, you know, I want to give more. You know, my tongue has always been really nasty and aggressive, but now I feel like, you know, it's better that I control my tongue. I've always been a little bit self-centered, but now I feel like I want to be more giving because I saw that pious man. I saw a video or a movie or a story about a very charitable person who embodied like the most selfless orientations, and it was an opening in me to be better. But rather than walking into that door, I just said, well, you know me. You know, you looked yourself in the mirror and you said, well, you know yourself. You're trash. You're garbage. You're worthless. You're never going to be like that. You know, what makes you, look at all the stuff that you've done already. Look at all the things that you've watched and all of the sins that you've committed. And so you look at yourself in the mirror, and this is where we become our worst enemies, because Allah's opening up something to us for a reason. And let's see what Ibn Ata'illah says, why that's the case. Well, so if Allah's opening up a door for us, don't worry about your previous actions, don't let them define you. فَإِنَّهُ مَا فَتَحَهَا لَكَ إِلَّا وَهُوَ يُرِيدُ أَنْ يَتَعَرَّفَ إِلَيْكَ. Allahu Akbar. Allah did not open up this window and this door except because He wants you to know Him. This is Allah's lutf, His subtle grace and His beauty. Stop defining yourself by your own simple parameters and metrics. We have to stop doing that to ourselves. I can't continue to limit myself and write myself off and put a big stamp of a failure on me because I have a faulty and limited scope of the potential of the magnificence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Ata'illah is trying to broaden our horizons and make some serious correctives in how we think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when Allah opens up something to me, He's saying, I want you to get to know me. I'm doing this for a reason. I want you to get to know me because I love you. So what does Sidi Ahmed Zarruq say? He says, يعني بما فيها من ظهوره واقتداره. In this, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does this, He's doing this because He's showing Himself to you. يُظْهِرُ نَفْسَهُ لَنَا. Allah manifests Himself to us. He's saying, hey, listen, Yasir. Don't forget, I'm here. Don't forget, don't be so distracted by what you think or what you assume or your history. Relax, I'm right here. This is beautiful. يُظْهِرُ نَفْسَهُ لَنَا وَاقْتِدَارِهِ. And He's showing us His ability. When Allah stops and He makes this whole world pause and become isolated and quarantined, is that not Him showing us a part of who He is? His qahr, His dominance, His quwwah, His strength. وَتَوَجُّهِ لُطْفِهِ وَإِبْرَارِهِ, and He's directing towards us His lutf, His subtle grace, and His birr, His loyalty to us. And I know those words sound a little bit presumptuous from me. May Allah forgive me if they are. But this idea of birr is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He cares about us in a way that indicates that He's really loyal to our cause. Meaning that Allah is there for us. Allah is not interested in harming us, but rather Allah is interested in seeing us. And Allah wants for us to be well guided, and He wants us to be happy and forgiven and elevated and beautified. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up a door, He wants us to get to know some things about Him. So this is His lutf and His birr. إِذْ هُوَ مَتَى أَعْطَاكَ أَشْهَدَكَ بِرَّهُ. When Allah gives you, He's allowing you to witness His birr, His loyalty and His commitment and His care for us. وَمَتَى مَنَعَكَ أَشْهَدَكَ قَهْرَهُ. And when He deprives you, He's allowing you to witness His dominion, His power, His might. And this shuhud is from the greatest stations of ihsan. أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه, to have mushahada, that you witness and you testify and you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So إذا تجلى بجماله, if He manifests Himself with His beauty, then He is showing us, oh, I like you, and I'm loyal to you, and I'm committed to you. And when He manifests Himself in His jalal, His might and His majesty, He's showing us His power and His dominion and His control. And you see this happening so often in the lives of the Salihin. If you read the stories of the companions, all of them had these futuhat. They had, look at Sayyidina Umar, in the life that he led before Islam, and how barbaric he was, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, before Islam, of course. And how difficult his personality was, and how aggressive and mean he was. And he was such an enemy of the beloved sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a fath in a moment's notice. Hearing Surah Al-Furqan, and just, it opened up his chest. And so what did he do? He moved towards it. And that was the case for many of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. One of the great pious predecessors of this ummah, a man by the name of Bishr al-Hafi, Bishr the barefoot. And the reason he has that name, he was a wali over Basra in Baghdad in the second, third century, and he was a mayor. He had a magisterial role in Basra. And one day a zahid, an ascetic, knocked on his door, and his servant answered. And she said, yes, how can I help you? He said, I'm just here to ask, is the owner of this space, this palace, this home, whatever, is he free or is he a slave? Hurrun am abd. So she laughed. She said, don't you know who he is? And he said, okay, forgive me. Of course, that this makes sense. He's certainly hur. So Bishr asked his servant, who was that? And he said this was so, and she said this was so and so, and he was asking so and so. So he ran out of the house barefooted, caught up with the man, and said to him, who are you and why did you come? He said, I came because I wanted to know if the dweller of this home was free or a servant. And of course, obviously, you're not a servant. And those words pierced the heart of Bishr al-Hafi. And in a moment, he said, Ushhiduka wa ushhidullah anni abd. I testify to you and I testify to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I am a servant. And from that day on, brothers and sisters, Bishr al-Hafi's journey as one of the greatest servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began. And he maintained his humble state, maintaining his very humble adornment, his humble disposition. And he produced some of the most profound ideas and ma'ani that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala awradaha ala qalbihi, that Allah granted his heart and expanded and expounded upon his heart. Why? Because there was a moment where Allah tajalla bijamalihi, and he felt humbled in a moment, say, Ya Allah, wallahi, I'm a servant, I'm servant. And it was just a question of, are you a free or are you a slave? Conversely, we see, for example, the story of Malik ibn Dinar, who was also a great 2nd century saint, if you will. And his story is famous, and I have a recording of it on YouTube. You can listen to the full story. But he was a drunkard, and he was a very abusive man. And there was a moment where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tajalla bi jalalihi, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested himself with his power and his might by taking away his daughter. And she was a young girl, and he loved her. She was 5 years old roughly. He loved her dearly. And that night when Allah took his daughter away from him, Malik's commitment was, I'm going to drink tonight in a manner that I've never drunk before. I'm going to become inebriated tonight. And he drank and he drank and he drank until he passed out. And then in the dream, and when he was in his sleep, sleep, he had a dream, and the dream was of a serpent running after him. And it's a very long story. But lastly, he ultimately ends up in front of his daughter, and she is the one who saves him from this serpent. And she sits down on his lap, and she says to him, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Is it not time that your heart becomes tranquil and submissive and thoughtful and fearful of that which has come down to you? أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ, that your heart finds tranquility with the remembrance of Allah and what has been brought down to you of truth. And then he wakes up and he goes straight to the masjid. This is after a life committed to drinking and false actions and behaviors. But he went to the masjid and he begins to pray, and the first verse he hears from the Imam is أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ, the same verse that his daughter recited to him in the dream. And that began a journey in the life of Malik ibn Dinar of profound spiritual elevation. Brothers and sisters, objectively speaking, when Allah took his daughter away from him, was it not a fath? Was it not an opening? Is it painful? Absolutely. May Allah protect us and never allow us to have to suffer that calamity. But in this context, as we see the trajectory of his life and how this moment of qabd, of constriction, and this moment of qahr, and this moment of quwwah was an inflection point that led him to profound increase, is it not objectively from the bountifulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And that's precisely how we should be considering all of the factors of our life, especially the ones that come and they kind of smack us in the face. You know, this virus is something that just smacked the entirety of the human race in its face. It just shocked us. And subhanAllah, you know, I was thinking about this today. You know, my wife, she'll show me sometimes on the trees, because the spring is coming in, and she'll show me how you see these little green buds. And she's like, oh, subhanAllah, look, the buds are coming out of the trees, right? So the trees were dead. They were dead. Winter, you know, leafless, no green, you know, just twigs and bark and nothing there. But suddenly you begin to see these green buds sprouting. You know, one of the great beauties that I have personally been witnessing over the past 2 weeks, because, you know, I engage with so many different people, I see a lot of buds. I see a lot of greenery. people's hearts just opening, people's minds opening, beginning to sprout something. And it's so beautiful to see that it's this sign and this ayah that Allah has brought upon us, its fruits are already being seen. And the greenery is there. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if we hold on to this, we hold on to this state that we're in, that Allah opened up a door for us to come to know of Him in a particular way, then what we will do is, if we walk into that door and then we continue to walk in, that green will only grow. That green will only grow more and more. Brothers and sisters, never ever allow yourself to be deprived of openings that Allah has in store for you. Openings that we could not accomplish simply by our actions. Do you see that? There are certainly openings that happen through our actions, but there are also openings that only occur when Allah brings them to our hearts. He brings them to us outside of our will, outside of our capacity. You know, I'll tell you a story of a beautiful brother that I know. May Allah bless him, and I love him dearly. He went missing for like 2 years of my life once, just vanished. Not in any like sinister way. He just stopped showing up to things, and I kind of just fell out of touch. And then one day he messaged me out of the blue. And he said, I really need to see you tonight. I said, sure, let's meet. And this is after 2 years. And then he began to explain to me over dinner. And at that time, I didn't have the luxury of time to even take on dinners in that way. I would usually just meet for like small meetings or whatever. But subhanAllah, something in my heart said, you have to meet him. So I met him, wallahi, exactly as I'm telling you. We met, and it was just something, Allah created a reality. And we met, and he began to explain to me over the past 2 years how he hasn't seen a Muslim, how he hasn't prayed a Jummah. This is a person who was born and raised as a Muslim, a quote-unquote practicing Muslim. And he hasn't prayed Jummah. He hasn't been around Muslims. And on top of that, he's been, in his own words, acting in a heathenish fashion, having all sorts of illicit behaviors and relationships. And then after explaining to me everything that he's been doing for the past year and a half, he said to me, what do you think of me? Those were his exact words. What do you think of me? And I thought to myself, subhanAllah, in that moment, I thought, why is he sitting in front of me? What brought him to come and talk to a sheikh? The sheikh represents to him something that is close to the religion. That doesn't mean every sheikh is closer. No, there's plenty of people who are, much, much better than mashayikh. May Allah increase us all and forgive us. But in his assumption, okay, something came into his mind to go sit with the sheikh who kind of represents something religious. So he did that. And we sat. And so I said to him, I'm going to be very honest with you, and I want you to really listen to what I have to say. And wallahi, I'm not patronizing you. I genuinely think that Allah loves you and Allah cares about you. And he was like, come on, Sheikh, I don't need to hear that nonsense, please. Like, I know what I am. I'm a piece of garbage. I'm filth. I need you to tell me how miserable I am. I need you to beat me down with a stick and just beat the heathenness out of me. I said, wallahi, I'm being honest. Who else other than Allah would have put something in your heart this morning to call me up, and then Allah will facilitate a reality for us to meet and to gather? And you and I are only talking about Islam. We're talking about Allah. We're talking about the Prophet Muhammad. We're talking about forgiveness. We're talking about mercy. We're talking about all these beautiful Quranic and Muhammadan prophetic ma'ani. Who else would have orchestrated that other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It certainly didn't come from within you. Is it not Allah who planted something in your heart to come? He said, absolutely. And I was like, if Allah hated you and Allah didn't care about you, do you think He would ever remind you? Do you think He would ever place something in you to go and speak to someone who could help you? He said, no. He said, then accept a graceful, bountiful, beautiful gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is objectively beautiful what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done. And now let this be an inflection point, a fath, an opening. Don't allow your past 2 years to inhibit you or define you, or your past 20 years or 50 years. If you're telling me I have 50 years of sinfulness, like the man who came and to the Prophet ﷺ, and he was so old that his eyes, his brows kind of came over his eyes, and he said that, Ya Rasulullah, if my sins were to cover this entire, if my sins were to be put out in the world, they would cover all of creation. That's how much sinfulness I've done. And so the Prophet ﷺ said to him, Allah will forgive you. يُبَدِّلُ اللَّهُ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ حَسَنَاتٍ. Allah will convert your sinfulness to hasanat. And so he said, وَغَدَرَاتِ وَفَجَرَاتِ, but my ghadarat and my fajarat, like all of my transgressions and all of my evil, all of it. He said, وَغَدَرَاتُكَ وَفَجَرَاتُكَ, all of it. But how? It's that I embrace that moment. So he's sitting in front of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, just go back to Allah. Ask forgiveness. Be humble. That's why one of the asrar of this hikmah, one of the secrets of this hikmah, is that we have to embody humility. Because النفحات الربانية تأتي للخاضع. The divine spirits and bountiful winds, they hold on the humble person. They stick to the humble person. That's why our teachers would say, don't stand at the tip of the mountain. Always be at the bottom of the mountain. Because if you're looking for nourishment and the rain starts to come down and you're at the top of the mountain, then you'll never gather any water. But if you're at the bottom of the mountain, then you'll get all of the water that's flowing down the mountain. So you'll be able to gather a lot. So a part of our disposition towards the futuhat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the openings of Allah, and how when He manifests, is that we have to be profoundly humble. So I'm dealing with illness. It's a fath from Allah, and I have to be profoundly humble. Allah takes a loved one from me. It's a fath from Allah, and I have to be profoundly humble. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes my job away from me. And that thing that I thought was the source of my sustenance, it's a fath from Allah, and I have to be profoundly humble. Allah gives me a generous gift. He sends me someone with a check. It's a fath from Allah, and I have to be profoundly humble. Allah opens up a door for me to love Salatul Fajr. It's a fath from Allah, but I have to take it in a very humble fashion. You see, it has to maintain humility, whether it's Jamal or it's Jalal. So Sidi Ahmad Zarruq says, then Ibn Ata'illah says, so he says, فَإِنَّهُ مَا فَتَحَهَا لَكْ إِلَّا وَهُوَ يُرِيدُ أَنْ يَتَعَرَّفَ إِلَيْكَ أَلَمْ تَعْلَمْ أَنَّ التَّعَرُّفَ هُوَ مُورِدُهُ عَلَيْكَ. Don't you know that this ta'arruf is what Allah is bringing to you? Why did He bring this to us? Sidi Ahmad Zarruq says, أَوْرَدَهُ عَلَيْكَ لِيُوصِلَكَ إِلَيْهِ. He gave you this so that He can take you to Him. بِمَا مِنْهُ إِلَيْكَ, from that which is from Him to us. So Allah this idea of us getting to Allah through our actions, which is which is found in the Quran. And I want to read this verse from Surah Shura, which just illustrates, because there's this idea of Allah bringing us to Him and us going to Allah. And I want to juxtapose these two realities. Allah says in Surah Shura, verse 13, شرع لكم من الدين ما وصى به نوحا والذي أوحينا إليك وما وصينا به إبراهيم وموسى وعيسى. That Allah has defined for us and He's legislated for us from this deen that which He gave to Nuh and those that He revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and what we gave to Ibrahim and Musa and Isa, and aqimu din, establish this religion, the prayers, the fast, etc. وَلَا تَتَفَرَّقُوا فِيهِ, and do not be disparate and disconnected in it and disagreeable on it. كَبُرَ عَلَى الْمُشْرِكِينَ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ, it is very hard for the polytheists to accept that which you're calling them to. Allahu, this is the shahid, Allahu yajtabi ilayhi man yasha wa yahdi ilayhi man yunib. So there is this idea of ijtiba and this idea of hidayah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call and choose for Himself whom He wills, and He will guide those who are in a state of inaba, return. So you see, there is the pathway that all of us have to always be on, which is walking and working and acting fil khair, prayer, fast, seeking forgiveness, dhikr. All of these are actions that every Muslim should embody and try to continue to work on. But then there is a form of Allah bringing us to Him just like that. And I'm sure all of us have felt those moments in our lives where there is a time where I just really loved to pray. It just happened. Or I really loved praying that prayer, or I really loved reading Quran, or I really loved listening to that dars. There was something that happened to me that brought me. So that I want this to be clear, is that because once you arrive, if Allah brings you, then you're going to continue to work. But Allah just pulled you closer to Him and said, Ya Allah, continue, right? Work. But don't allow your actions to define you. I want you, Allah is basically effectively telling us, I want my fadl, my generosity, my mercy, my futuhat to be what ultimately define you and define your relationship with me. So وَلَوْلَا ذَلِكَ, so these futuhat and these mawarid that we go to Him, that He takes us to Him, and He allows us to know something about Him. يُعَرِّفْنَا عَنْهُ وَلَوْلَا ذَلِكَ لَمْ تَصِلْ وَلَمْ تَنَلْ مِنْ مَا لَدَيْهِ. And if it wasn't for Allah's mawarid and His futuhat and His openings, then we would never know Him and we would never arrive to Him. فَالْوِجْهَةُ, this opening, right? This door, this window, minnatun, it is a gift. يُتَوَجَّهُ الشُّكْرُ عَلَيْهَا, that requires thankfulness. So any opening, whether it's jalali or jamali, what does it require from us? It requires shukr. Because if it reminds us and shows us and teaches us something about Allah, then it is immediately something تستلزم الشكر, necessitates and requires shukr. وَالْإِسْتِفَادَةُ مِمَّا لَدَيْهَا, and to benefit from it. Brothers and sisters, there is endless benefit to be found in qabd, in moments of constriction, in moments of limitation, whether it's this virus or an illness or a loss of life or a loss of wealth, or to be deprived of marriage or deprived of children or deprived of whatever it is one would like or needs in this life. There is profound lessons and learnings and divine manifestations occurring in qabd as well as in bast. And by the way, the salihin of the past, they would always prefer qabd over bast, because they felt that qabd was something that would keep them closer to Allah, whereas bast may be a fitna. Now, this is not to say that we should ever wish harm on ourselves, no. But meaning that when they were in a state of qabd, They really embraced those moments. They didn't fear constriction. They didn't fear limitation. They didn't fear when Allah deprived them. They tried to meaningfully embrace it for what it is, because it's just Allah manifesting Himself. It's just Allah manifesting Himself. And I want you to really think about that idea, Allah manifesting Himself to me. And then Ibn Ata'illah says, وَالْأَعْمَالَ أَنْتَ مُهْدِيهَا إِلَيْهِ. So there is these things that Allah gives to you, and then there are actions that you give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And certainly the actions that we give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or that we present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for them to be useful for us, right? Ultimately, we have to give them in the best of states, meaning that I have to fulfill the condition of that action or that gift, if you will. I have to make sure it's free of all sorts of shortcomings and faults. I have to make sure that I'm sincere. I have to make sure that I am truthful in my purpose towards giving this act, and I am honest in my love, right, for giving this thing, right? So if you liken it, for example, to a gift that you're giving a loved one, there's one way that I may give a gift. So I say, like, here, take this, right? And I just kind of do it under my breath, or looking away, and I just throw something. There's another way to take a gift, to wrap it, to make it very beautiful, to think of a beautiful time to give, to really show the person, to set up the gift giving, to show the person how much you really love them, and that your love just exudes that when you give them this gift. So there's different ways to give gifts. So the gifts, if you will, that we give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are ones that require, obviously, that we really think about the how and the why and the spirit and the fashion and the form. So our actions require work, correct? So he says, but when you look about that which Allah is giving to us, it's perfect. It's beautiful. Our actions may be deficient, but Allah's are beautiful. Allah's always are perfect. وَأَيْنَ, and this is what he asks, وَأَيْنَ مَا تُهْدِيهِ إِلَيْهِ مِمَّا هُوَ مُورِدُهُ عَلَيْكَ. Where is that which you are giving to Allah in comparison to that which He's giving you? So this is Ibn Ata'illah illustrating, don't magnify your actions so much. Don't rely on your actions. This goes back to the first hikmah, min alamat al-i'timadi ala al-amal, from the indications of reliance upon actions, right? The first hikmah of the hikam, the first wisdom of these wisdoms. Don't rely on your actions. Don't magnify your actions. Our acting in a manner pleasing to Allah is a part of our loving surrender. It's a part of the shara. It's a part of our inaba, our return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we should look with an open heart, and a heart that is full of light, a heart that is aware that there is the endlessness and the absolute magnificence of Allah, that says, oh Allah, I accept, and I am honored, and I am in awe of you, and how perfect your offerings are, how perfect these waridat are, these things that descend upon me are. I am in awe of their perfection. Sometimes, maybe there's an ibadah that you like to do. Let me give a very practical example. This coming Ramadan, the majority of us are accustomed to praying Taraweeh in masajid, and we tend to really look forward to that and like that. Most likely, we will not be praying Taraweeh in masajid this Ramadan. That is most likely going to be the case, unless Allah wills otherwise. And nas'alullah al-afiyah, and to bring us goodness and to lift this burden from upon us. But the reality is that there is most likely a chance that we won't. Now, if I am so attached to the act of praying Taraweeh in the masjid, meaning that if I am not allowed to pray Taraweeh in the masjid, then I will find hubut. I will find myself distressed, right? In a state of duress, anxiety, worry, sadness, a sense of loss. Then I'm missing the mark. Because Allah depriving me of something is coming from His perfect, beautiful offerings. And He's only telling us, listen, I know that you like to come to me from there, but I want you to come to me from here. I know that you're accustomed to coming to me from there, but I want you to come to me from here. Do you see the distinction? Allah is doing something that is far better for us than we understand. So I shouldn't insist upon Allah that He gives me what I like because I have become accustomed to it. We have doctors and nurses and first responders who may have been so committed to, for example, for praying a few raka'at in the night, and maybe they made their wudu and they prepared their sajada, their prayer rug, and they're getting ready to pray, and they get an emergency call to go and to help a sick person in the hospital. That prayer rug is there. That action that you love to do is there. But Allah is saying, don't do that. I want you to go here. I want you to go serve and help and care for someone who's ill. I want you to come to know of me from this pathway, not that pathway. Yes, there's virtue in that, I know. But there's something else that I want for you in this moment. It's very different than being lazy and just saying, oh, well, I don't really feel like praying, and Allah doesn't clearly want me to pray, so I'm just not going to pray. No, that's just me wanting to to having an escape. But if there's something that I genuinely like to do, and then Allah tells me, no, do something else. If may Allah protect our children, but if you're getting ready to read your Quran, or to make your dhikr, or to visit a loved one, and then suddenly a family member becomes very sick, a child, a parent, a loved one, and you have to go with them to the hospital, or a friend, and they call you up and say, hey, listen, I need you to take me to the hospital, or you have a family member who gets hurt and you have to take them to the doctor. Rather than saying, Alhamdulillah, khair, I'll be right there, you say, A'udhu billah, like, you start to curse this person, like, what's wrong with you? Don't you know that I was about to pray? I was about to, make dhikr. I was about to read Quran. I was about to do this good act, and now you did this stupid thing, and I have to deal with you now? That's not accepting the beautiful, perfect offering from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see how Allah manifests Himself. And that's why we have to embody this state of humility to say, oh Allah, you want me here, I get it. You want me to be sitting at home, I see that now. You want me to be isolated, I get it. You want me to be going and taking care of my child, I understand. You want me to be leaving everything and taking care of my mother, I understand. Uwais al-Qarni, go read his story. Uwais al-Qarni was someone who lived during the time of the Prophet ﷺ and who loved the Prophet ﷺ. But he never saw the Prophet ﷺ because he stayed with his mother to take care of her, because she had no one but him. Brothers and sisters, how often do we neglect our families and our loved ones and the people who have huquq, rights over us, because of my personal perception or assumption or idea of piety, which is that I'm going to go to the masjid, I'm going to go pray, and you go to hell. May Allah forgive us. But at this disposition that I have these very pious things to do, I have to go work, I have to do this, I don't have time for you because I'm doing these very important things. I'm very busy. I don't have time for you. I'm very busy. I don't have time for you. Could not Uwais al-Qarni have said, Mom, I'm busy, I'm sorry, I gotta go be with the Prophet. I have to go spend time with the Prophet. So sorry, I know you have needs, but they're gonna have to take second order. But what if that's the case, subhanAllah, with a job or with some studies or whatever ideas I've sold myself about myself, and I'm just so consumed with this and myself and my wants and my desires that I'm neglecting the responsibilities, and I'm not seeing the openings that Allah has given me. But if Allah has given me someone sick to tend to, that's a fatah from Allah. That's an opening, because the sick person is someone who Allah is with. The sick person is someone who Allah is with. Abdi maridtu wa lam ta'udni. My servant, I was sick and you didn't visit me. Ya Rasul, Ya Allah, how could I visit you? And how would you get sick? And how can I visit you sick? He said, didn't you know that my abd, my servant so-and-so was sick? And if you were to have gone to him or her, you would have found me there. So imagine having to tend to a child. Some of us, we have children who have debilitating diseases. May Allah protect all of our children and grant all of those who have children who with serious illnesses, afiyah. But some have their entire life mission has been to tend to the care of their child and their illnesses and their problems. And sometimes it gets really heavy, but don't we realize that that's a maqam, a station that Allah has placed you in? Allah has chosen that for you. Sometimes you're not able to pray because you're in a particular state. Is that not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for you? The one who has asked you to pray is asking you not to pray. The one that you want to go and pray for and read Quran is telling you, right now, take care of your children. Take care of your child. I know you love to read Quran right now, but your child needs you. I know you love to go and pray in the masjid, but you have to take care of your mother. It's not to make an excuse to not pray in the masjid. It's not to make an excuse to not pray or read Quran, but it's rather to assess, where is my immediate priority? And to accept all of it as futuhat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَيْنَمَا تُهْدِيهِ إِلَيْهِ. So where is it that which I give to Allah in comparison to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me? أَفَمَنْ يَخْلُقْ كَمَنْ لَا يَخْلُقْ أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Is the one who creates like the one who doesn't create us? أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Don't you think about this? Don't you reflect upon this? And then Sidi Ahmed Zarruq, and I know that we've gone a little bit longer, but may Allah grant us benefit and tawfiq in this. Al-Hakim al-Tirmidhi, he has Al-Hakim al-Tirmidhi, who was a 3rd century scholar. He gives the story about how in his later years he had become sick. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought him shifa, and he was sick for 2 years. And I'll just share the story with you. After 2 years of being sick, and he was deprived of so many of the activities that he was accustomed to do, the acts of worship that he was accustomed to doing, all of it was taken from him. He said, I thought to myself after these 2 years, would I have preferred that I would receive the reward of the worship of all of the humans and all of the jinns of creation, or this illness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this debilitating illness for these 2 years? So would I have preferred 2 years of worship by all creation, or this illness for 2 years? And he said, فَصَحَّ عَزْمِي وَدَامَ يَقِينِي وَوَقَعَتْ بَصِيرَتِي على أن مختار الله تعالى لي أكثر شرفا وأعظم خطرا وأنفع عاقبة، وهي العلة التي دبرها لي ولا شوب فيه، إن كان فعله فشتان بين فعله بك لتنجو به وبين فعلك لتنجو به. Subhanallah. He says, when I looked at this and I thought about it, so my resolve became clear, and my certainty was abound, and the sight of my heart, my basira, went directly towards that what Allah chooses is better and more honorable and more grandiose and more beautiful and more generous than anything that could have been. And this illah, this ailment that He has designated and chose for me, there is nothing imperfect about it. That ailment and this illness, there's nothing imperfect about it. It's so beautiful and so perfect that I would take it over all of creation worshiping for 2 years. This, brothers and sisters, is basira. This is having the sight of the heart to having the al-qalb al-nurani that sees, and that sees that إذا أردت أن تعرف مقامك فانظر حيث أقامك. If you want to know your station, look at where Allah has placed you. And that it is always, always, always al-khiratu fi ma ikhtarahu Allah. It will always be the case, brothers and sisters, that what is best is what Allah chooses for us. So if He gives us, alhamdulillah, and if He takes from us, alhamdulillah. If He expands, alhamdulillah. If He restricts, alhamdulillah. Because it is only khair. So then Al-Hakim al-Tirmidhi says, فَلَمَّا رَأَيْتُ هَذَا, when I thought of this, I noticed that the worship of all of the humans and the jinns was actually very small compared to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would choose to give me. And then he says, and this is what I want to close with, he says, فَصَارَتْ الْعِلَّةُ عِنْدِي نِعْمَةً. So this sickness became for me a blessing. وَصَارَتِ النِّعْمَةُ مِنَّةً. And this blessing became a gift. وَصَارَتِ الْمِنَّةُ أَمَلًا. And then this gift became hope. وَصَارَ الْأَمَلُ عَطْفًا. And this hope became something so beautiful and warming. Something عطوف, something that is kind and warming and healing. فَقُلْتُ فِي نَفْسِي بِهَذَا. It is with this spiritual logic of taking something that is an ailment, processing it as a blessing, processing it as a gift, processing it as hope, processing hope as that which brings me worth and comfort and relief. And then he said, بِهَذَا كانوا, the pious predecessors of his time, يستمرون في البلاء على طيب النفوس مع الحق. He said, it is with this logic and this spiritual theological orientation that they would stay in the state of bala, in the places of hardship and difficulty, with the most beautiful of nufus, with the most beautiful of hearts and souls, with the truth, al-haq. وَبِهَذَا الَّذِي انْكَشَفَ كَانُوا يَفْرَحُونَ بِالْبَلَاءِ. And when this was exposed, they would then find joy in hardship. Joy in hardship. Brothers and sisters, I'm not saying this to patronize or to make any of us feel deficient. Well, what are you talking about, joy in hardship? I'm terrified. I'm scared right now. Please don't talk to me about this. No, this is just to simply say, sometimes we're worshiping and we're living in this life like this, and that can really deprive us of so much. And we need Allah to open up the horizons to us. So we're just overwhelmed and we're taken. And then we find ourselves immersed in Allah's beautiful light and His endless light. So that if something seems good or bad, but when the light of Allah shines, it just all looks beautiful. Because it's a beautiful part. It's a beautiful mosaic, divinely ordained, divinely fashioned mosaic, where the white parts, the white parts and the shadowy parts, the bright parts and the shadowy parts, they complete each other to create this beautiful, beautiful mosaic. And it's that mosaic is the decree of Allah, in the will of Allah. And so when we stand in front of all of it, we say, Allahu Akbar. Ya Allah, you are so beautiful. And everything you do is beautiful. And everything you decree is beautiful. And right now, Ya Allah, and each of you who are sitting, I want you to think like this. Ya Allah, as I'm sitting right now in my state, and I'm worried, and I'm fearful, and I have anxiety, and I have worries, hold on. I'm realizing now that there is an opening that you're giving me, and I'm here to walk with purpose through that opening, Ya Allah. I'm here to walk with purpose. And I'm here to surrender myself to your will. And I'm here to surrender myself to the opportunities that you give me. Ya Allah, I know that you have given us in this life moments of difficulty and moments of hardship, moments of ease and moments of beauty And you've given all of that to us to only come to know you and to come closer to you, because you want us to be close to you, because you are someone who loves your creation, and you want us to be in the best of states, and you want us to be well guided. And so you give us and you manifest yourself to us only in a manner that will bring us closer and closer to you. And so we surrender humbly, with beautiful humility, to your magnificence and your omnipotence. And we ask you, Allah, to only open up for us more and more. That's why the dua of the Salihin is, Allahumma ftah alayya futuh al-arifin. Oh Allah, grant me the opening, grant me an opening that you give to the people of Urfan, the people of Gnosis, the people of Ma'rifah. Allahumma ftah alayya futuh al-arifin. Ftah alayya futuh al-arifin bik. We ask you the opening of those types of openings that you give to those who know you. Because brothers and sisters, if we know Allah, we will love Allah. And if we love Allah, we will surrender lovingly to Allah. And when we surrender lovingly to Allah, Allah will lift us high above the fray, above the confines of this dunya. This dunya is so small, and this dunya is so restrictive. And I know it seems like a lot, and I know it looks like a lot, and I know we experience it in that way. But brothers and sisters, when we look at it really for what it is, and we look at it through a divine lens, we see it's not that big, and it's small, and there's a way to be elevated. There's a way to live within it, but not be confined by it. And that is billah. That is billahi wa ma'allahi walillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with beautiful futuhat that open up our hearts and minds to surrender to Him lovingly, to know Him more and more. Ya Allah, we surrender to you. We surrender to your will. We surrender to everything that you have decreed to us. And we ask you, Allah, to help us to walk into every door and every window that you have opened for us. Ya Allah, we ask you to make prayer more beloved to us and fasting more beloved to us. We ask you to make dhikr more beloved to us. We ask you to make your beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam more beloved to us. We ask you to make the learning of this religion more beloved to us. We ask you to make learning about you more beloved to us. We ask you to make reflecting upon the Quran more beloved to us. We ask you to make patience beloved to us. We ask you to make acceptance of your decree beloved to us. We ask you to allow to make surrender beloved to us. Ya Allah, we ask you to make beloved to us everything that is beloved to you. And we ask you to allow our hearts and our minds and our desires to be oriented around that which you love and your beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam loves. Ya Allah, we ask you to accept this gathering and to bless this gathering, to bless every individual who's present in this gathering, and every loved one who is somehow connected to this gathering, and every beloved person to you, Ya Allah. Make this gathering a blessing for them, and allow this gathering to be a blessing for every single member of the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and allow this gathering to be a blessing for all of creation, to be healing and guidance for all of creation, Ya Allah. Allahumma hdina wa hdi bina. Allahumma kun lana wa la takun alayna. O Allah, guide us and guide through us, and be for us and do not be against us. Ya Allah, we ask you to grant us before our parting from this world elevation and forgiveness and beauty. And we ask you at the moment of our death that you grant us martyrdom. And we ask you that after death you grant us jannatan wa na'ima, that you grant us heaven and the bountifulness of the afterlife. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, I'll look at some of the questions. Ameen, ameen once again to all of your beautiful dua. If there are any questions, okay. I'm looking for questions, so just give me a moment. If you have questions, please write them in. If not, let me check if someone has text me messages, because sometimes I get messages on my text message. May Allah bless my dear brother Abu Bakr. May Allah increase him. Allahumma ameen. Someone wanted me to mention their name, so I did. Khair, inshallah. So it doesn't seem like there are any questions as of now. So if you have questions, you can post them, and I will respond to them in the comments. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. Please keep us in your dua, and we will meet together bi'idhnillahi ta'ala on Monday. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.